All right, what's up, guys? We're back. This time on the phone. I hope you guys don't mind switching over to this one. But yeah, gonna be on here for the next hour answering all your snowboard questions. Definitely hit me up with anything that's on your mind. We got 6 people in the chat already, 7. If you guys have been wondering, I've been in Europe the last actually 4 months. Went to a few different places to snowboard, had an amazing time, but now back in Whistler, BC, Canada, and getting all set up for the snowboard season. So Whistler opens in just over a week, and it's like raining / snowing outside at the moment. So getting everything set up for the season. But yeah, definitely hit me up, guys, if you have any gear questions. This is probably the best time to buy snowboard gear with Black Friday coming up. So I know a lot of you guys are buying your snowboard gear. So if you guys have any questions about picking up your gear, this is the time to ask it. So anything that's on your mind, guys, definitely hit me up. I've also got links to all my gear down below in the description as well, if you guys want to check that out. So let's go. I can see you guys. I hope you guys can hear and see me. And yeah, when you ask your question too, let me know. Let me know where you guys are watching from, because it's amazing to see where everyone is watching from in the world. All right, so Longboarder Slider says, do you prefer Union Forces or Stratas? Well, I probably ride Stratas a bit more. They're a little bit more versatile, especially in the terrain park. So recently I've been riding the Stratas more. They're softer, you can do butters, they're just a bit more versatile because they're not as stiff. Where the Union Forces, so these are the Forces, and these are the Stratas, where the Forces are a bit more made for POW days, for like carving, for aggressive riding, big mountain style riding. So the Forces are definitely a binding I would use more weather dependent. So when the snow's here, I'll probably be riding the Forces more. So 2 different bindings. I would say if you're more of an intermediate rider, then go with something like the Stratas. They're a bit more the Stratas are a bit more friendly across like all levels from beginner to advanced, where the Atlas are a bit more, I would say, lean towards more advanced riders. Joe says, yo, quick question. Is it bad to leave your bindings attached to your board after you ride? I will usually take my board off, apart and dry everything, but it's a pain. Will that affect my inserts? Yeah, I noticed that, like, yeah, sometimes there can be some water, some moisture underneath your bindings, but honestly, I think that you can just leave them on. Like, in the past, like in years past, where I've just left my bindings on my board for the entire season, I've never seen any kind of like water damage or anything happen to like my board under my bindings from any kind of like moisture. So you should be good leaving them on the entire season. That should be no problem. Nathan says, have you ever done a snowboard trip through Evo? No, I've never. Yeah, on their website, I always see them advertising snowboard trips, but I've never done one myself. So yeah, that could be something fun. Yeah, it's definitely a cool thing. Doing a snowboard trip with like an organized group like that is a cool way to meet people. It takes a lot of, like, I guess, the headache away from planning if you can just do it all through one source. So it's a pretty cool way to do it. I've never done it personally, but I'm sure it's a really good time. Silver Kraken says, hey Kevin, have you ever snowboarded in Utah? Never in Utah, but that's one of my goals for this season, is to actually get to ride in Utah. I don't know if it's going to happen, because if the border stays shut, then we won't be going to the US. But yeah, we'll see how everything like that happens. But yeah, if it opens up, I would love to check out snowboarding in Utah. Dragon wants to know, should bindings overhang even just a little? From New Mexico. No, your bindings shouldn't overhang. I don't think any of my bindings like overhang at all. Maybe a little. I guess they could just if it's like a little bit, that's fine. It's it's when it's like a lot, or if your boots, if you have like a size 11 or 12 snowboard boot, then if you're just on a regular width board, then you can get your heel or toe dragging in the snow. So you definitely don't want that. So if you have a larger size boot, maybe make sure you go towards like a mid-wide or a wide snowboard, and that'll prevent you from having any heel or toe drag. All right. Henrik says, "What happened to the gang you were in Japan with last season? I feel the OG gang are splitting now." No, we're not splitting. I think we're like being divided up a bit just because of everything that's going on in the world with travel. So David is in New Zealand. TJ, he's down in the US with Bo as well. Casey Willax is down in the US. So hopefully you get to do some trips with those guys. Also, Andreas and Chris are here in Whistler. I haven't been able to see those guys because I've been in quarantine in Whistler, but hopefully get to see and ride with a bit of all those guys this year. Highland Cow wants to know, how many boards do you got this season? So I think these are my main 4 behind me. The Super DOA, Capita Super DOA, mainly for park and resort riding. Battalion Surfer for like cruisy pow days, maybe in the trees. The Jones Ultramind Expander, a more aggressive pow board that hopefully I can take to some big steep slopes this year. The Capita Stevens, which is a bit softer for like butters and more jibby style days. And I've also got my wife Jill's board back there as well, the Capita Space Metal Fantasy. So I've got 4 main boards this year, but I'm sure once I get to ride them all, I may add, maybe not buy more boards, but hopefully maybe demo some more boards just to get some experience on some other models and brands. All right. Moo says, "I want to buy myself the Capita DOA, but I have absolutely no idea which bindings to get. I would like to have a quick access like the flow bindings, but I don't know if flow bindings are good. Do you have?" I don't have flow bindings, and yeah, if like quick access for like getting off the chair and getting right into your bindings is like your top priority, maybe check out Flows or the K2 clicker bindings, or maybe Burton Step-ons. So there's a few different ones out there for like really quick, for getting your board on quick. All right. Yeah, and Etterspace Mace saying, "Do you recommend Burton Step-on bindings with the powder board from Vermont?" I don't recommend, unless like, yes, the convenience of that quick step-on is like your #1 priority. Just because I think with like POW, especially like getting some like snow stuck in there and then trying to get the quick step-on to work properly every time may be a little bit tricky. So unless like the convenience of getting your foot in quickly, if that's your main priority, then maybe the step-ons are the way to go. But I think the more traditional bindings with regular straps is just more better for performance-wise. Adam says, "Hey Kevin, do you take any extra vitamins/supplements to stay healthy in the cold climate while snowboarding?" I don't really. The main thing for me is just like trying to, like 7 or 8 years ago, I really tried to pay attention to what I was eating and just like trying to eat lots of like fruits and vegetables and good stuff like that. Because before that, in my 20s, I was probably not eating the best. So I just try to like eat all the best foods I can and not worry too much about supplements. Yeah, I think as long as you're like, getting all of it through food, then for me, at least I don't yeah, supplements I'm just haven't gotten into. But yeah, maybe one that you could take for lack of sunlight in the winter could be like vitamin D. Um, but yeah, I think I've like taken that a little bit. If it's like a long and gray winter, then maybe some vitamin D would help. All right, everyone's back on here. We got 129 people, 132 people in the live chat, 33 likes. Awesome, guys. We got El Stacker on here. We've got Leroy Hayden, a million pop-off, Santiago, Chris. Awesome, guys. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Tyler says, do you not recommend Vans boots anymore? I do. Yeah, I still really like the Vans. Which ones were they? The Vans High Standard Pros. Those were one of my like favorite all-time boots. Very comfortable, traditional laces. So they were great. So I recommend trying on some Vans High Standard Pros. But I think like these Adidas Sambas are maybe like slightly more my favorite. The Adidas, they're still comfortable. They still have the just traditional laces. But the one thing I like a little bit more on these guys is they're just a little bit stiffer. So I really like that. So Adidas Sambas, or if you like a bit of a softer boot, then the Vans High Standard Pros. All right. Lots of people talking about the quick access bindings. Magic says, will you move to Europe, man? Feel you got addicted. Our mountains are the real deal. Watching from Zurich. Awesome. Magic Chris. That's sick, man. Yeah, went to Zermatt twice in Switzerland. It's pretty amazing. Also down in Hintertux, Austria. Had an awesome time there too. I feel like definitely the mountains in Europe are the biggest. Like the Alps are so huge. I know that when we were snowboarding in Zermatt, the peak of the mountain, like of one of the mountains up there, but yeah, the main like Matterhorn peak is like 14,500 feet. So even though I think there's some mountains in Colorado which are around 14,000 feet, like they don't compare because where the mountain starts from is already at like 12,000. So it's kind of like cheating because the mountain is already, the base of the mountain already starts so high, which compared to the Alps in Europe where you're going from way down low in a valley to like, yeah, just straight up a massive, massive mountains, which are like, yeah, 14,000 feet high. So the Alps are definitely the biggest. There's definitely tons of resorts to explore. So I'll have to go back. And yeah, we got super lucky in October with some crazy powder days in Austria. So that was incredible. So we'll definitely, and also all the glaciers for like the summer snowboard parks. The glaciers are amazing. In Zermatt, the park was amazing in Hintertux. And I know that there's probably like another dozen glaciers that have good parks on them, like in these like early and late season conditions. So yeah, so many places in Europe, and yeah, we'll definitely have to go back. But yeah, it's also it's expensive in Europe too. So that's another thing to consider. The like, I think culture around snowboarding is a bit different. It's still a bit maybe caters more towards skiers, but yeah, I can see it coming around. So we'll definitely more snowboard trips to Europe in the works. All right. All right, guys, try not to ask the same question too many times because then it gets confusing. Frost says, I just bought a Arbor Westmark camber for April edition. Was wondering if it was a great purchase. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good purchase, man. Yeah, really good, sturdy board, good for riding with some speed. Yeah, good stability. You got the extra contact points with the Arbor Grip Tech. So awesome choice. All right, Daniel says, a beginner here. I tried all those tests, which tell me I ride regular, but after a few lessons, I feel more comfortable riding goofy. Any experience with that? Yeah, I think that if you should just ride the way that you feel more comfortable. So if you find that it's better to ride goofy, then just ride goofy. The test is kind of like a guide. So if like the test of like running and sliding across ice to see which foot you put out first, or somebody pushing you from behind to see which foot you put out first. Those are kind of like good, just like guides, but in the end, it's whichever way you feel more comfortable with. So if you feel more comfortable riding goofy, then just ride goofy, man. Julian says, I think about buying a Burton Process Flying V. What do you think? Yeah, I think that's a good board for a lot of things, but it's like a bit of a softer board, and the Process Flying V underneath your feet is going to make it feel like a very quick turning board. So I think it's good. It depends on what you want to do, what kind of riding you want to do. But if you're like a beginner intermediate rider who wants to like be able to turn quickly, if you want to have a board that you can press with, that's easy to press and good for like maybe some beginner park stuff, then I think that's a great board. Brandon says, do you think Asym boards make a difference? Yeah, definitely. So there's a bunch of Asym boards out there, and basically, if you guys aren't familiar with Asym boards, it means that the heel edge is a little bit shorter than the toe edge, and that shorter heel edge will actually help you to turn a little bit quicker on your heels. Because when we're riding, our toe, like doing a toe turn is actually a little bit easier. It's easier to get up onto your toes. It's just like in real life. If you're to stand up on your toes, it's easier than standing on your heels. So yeah, that shorter, bit deeper heel edge just allows you to like make a quicker heel turn. So yeah, I think it definitely helps. If you're bored, I would say don't buy a snowboard like because it has that. Like don't go looking for an Asym board like as the first thing you need. But if your snowboard that you're checking out happens to have Asym, then I think that's like it's like a really nice bonus. And Sneak Ease says, which GoPro? So at the moment, I'm using two GoPros. I'm using the GoPro 9 Black and also the GoPro Max. And the GoPro Max has actually been the one I've been using more often recently. So it's like the GoPro Max 360. So as you're filming with it, it's just filming it everything 360 degrees, which is awesome for snowboarding because you don't have to worry about like pointing and aiming the camera. So yeah, it's been really fun. There's a little bit of extra work with the GoPro Max because you have to like edit the video afterwards just to like tell the camera where to look so that when you like go back to watch back a video that you recorded, you do need to like just turn the camera. But that's like a little bit of extra work. And then there's also, it's not as good of quality. It's like 1080 in the end compared to the GoPro 9, which you can film now, I think in like 5K. But yeah, the GoPro Max has been really fun. I feel like for somebody who's like a casual filmer, I would recommend the GoPro Max. It's pretty cool. And we got a super chat. From Manny Lima. Manny says, is a good snowboard setup the Nitro T1 2020 snowboard, Union Contact Pro bindings 2021, and Solomon Launch BOA SJ 2020. Also keep doing what you're doing. Awesome, thanks Manny. Yeah, that sounds like a really good setup, man. Yeah, I like the Nitro T1. It's kind of like a good resort board or like a board you can take into the park. and the Union Contact Pro bindings are a good sort of like softer beginner, intermediate, or park style binding. So that's awesome. I don't know too much about the Salomon Launch BOA boots, but yeah, the best thing is always to get boots that are comfortable to you. So those other things seem solid. Yeah, solid setup, man. That's awesome. Brandon says, what does a board ride like if it's too short for my height slash weight? Is it unstable? Yeah, basically that. It's going to be a little bit unstable because when you are riding, like you need a certain length of edge to kind of like support your weight so that when you're going to slow yourself down, like more edge length is going to just to help you to stay in control, slow yourself down, land a jump, all those kinds of things. So that if it's too short, then you're gonna feel a little bit like just less stable. You're gonna be able to turn quicker and like maybe do some other things like quicker with a short board, like spin or do like quick turns through like trees or something. But the trade-off is that you're gonna have less stability, especially for landings. With a shorter board, you're just gonna have less board to help you to like land and get back into control. So yeah, one big downside if your board is too short is you're going to lose stability. Kag says, do you think wrist guards are very necessary for a beginner? I do. Yeah, I think for beginners, for whatever reason, for once you get past being a beginner, a wrist injury isn't that common. But when you're first learning, I think it's because you're not going very fast and you end up falling over and then you're putting your hands out to break your fall, which can cause some like either wrist issues or like you can get a sprained or broken wrist. So I definitely recommend wrist guards for beginners for sure. Some people continue to wear them past beginner, which is fine as well. But I think the number one injury for like new snowboarders is like wrist injuries. So at least until you get past that beginner stage, it's a really good idea to wear wrist guards. All right, it says, yo, Kevin, first new setup, all mountain riding. What are general angles for bindings? So if you're just going to be doing some all mountain riding and you're always going to be riding in one direction, I would say your binding angles can be maybe like plus 18 in the front and maybe -9 in the back. It gives you like a good directional stance. But if you plan on doing some switch riding, maybe even it out a little bit, maybe like plus 13 and -13. But yeah, once you get your angle set up, give it a try. And if it feels, then you can kind of like adjust it from there if it doesn't quite feel right. I always bring a tool with me up on the mountain so that if I need to make any adjustments, you can just do that. So, but yeah, try out those angles and then fine tune it from there. Gavin says, what gloves would you recommend, if any? So I actually haven't worn gloves in many years, but I do wear mittens. So I would recommend mittens over gloves. The mittens I've been riding the last while have been the Crab Grab punch mitts. Those ones have been great, kind of like a mid-weight mitten, and nothing too fancy, just pretty standard. But they've been great. Last year I also rode Volcom Gore-Tex mitts, and they're really nice as well. Kept my hands very dry because of the Gore-Tex, and they actually weren't that expensive, even though they were waterproof with the Gore-Tex. But and then also they were like a mid-weight. And then a couple years ago I rode Analog Gentry mitt. and they're really nice too. But for me, like I only need like a mid, like a mitten that's like not super warm, just kind of like right in the middle. If you find yourself that you get really cold hands, and you can lean towards mittens that are a bit heavier. But some of my friends too, like their hands overheat and they have like very thin mitts too. So kind of go but based on like how cold or how like warm you stay. But for me, I typically land like right in the middle. And Alex wants to know spherical versus cylindrical. So with the lenses. So for me, yeah, I'm more into just the cylindrical. So it's just like more, it's like a pop can where it just goes around one way. And then the spherical style is more like a bubble. So yeah, I prefer this style because especially with like this, so these are the Anon M4s, they sit like closer to my face. And apparently with the spherical ones, you get better like image quality, but I don't notice a difference. I think that the cylindrical are fine. So yeah, I've gone with cylindrical the last few years. All right. Cooper wants to know Ruroc helmet thoughts. Kevin, I've never worn a Ruroc helmet. But yeah, I think for me, like I don't need like the full face mask. I know that some people like to wear that. It's just a different preference, but yeah, for me, I don't need the full face mask, but I know some people like that. Oliver wants to know, are you going back to Whistler for the season? Yeah, so I'm actually in Whistler right now. I was over in Europe for a few months, but back in Whistler. The mountain opens here next, or I guess it's this Thursday. So yeah, the countdown to opening day has started, and I actually still need to buy my season's pass. I haven't bought my season's pass yet here in Whistler. But yeah, excited for the season. We'll be mostly in Whistler. The plan was to actually, like the plan is every year to travel and to head to some different places. But with all the lockdowns and restrictions, I think it's going to make it tough to travel. But we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, I'm back in Whistler now. Actually quarantining, so I haven't seen anybody since I've been back. And yeah, just waiting for the mountain to open here. Kush with a super chat says, what is the most ravenous board you recommend for buttering this 2020 season? What an odd question. Most ravenous. What does that mean? So for buttering. A few boards I think that I've ridden in the past that are great for buttering. One, the Battalion Evil Twin is actually a really good board for butters. It's got the 3BT on the nose and tail. So making it so that when you're like buttering on one of your tips, it just makes it very smooth. I rode that board like just over a year ago in New Zealand, and it was like really fun for butters. Also, the Capita Stevens is pretty good for butters as well. It's like a softer flex, like a 4.5 or 5 out of 10, so a bit easier for butters. And what else? Even the GNU Headspace that I rode in the park mostly last year too was a good board for butters. But yeah, there's 3. Awesome question, Kush. Thanks for the support, man. Ben wants to know, what's the difference between 0 degrees and 15 degrees stance? Well, basically, the reason that you angle your bindings out is because, like, imagine if you were going to squat onto the ground to, like, pick something up, and if you were to keep your feet, like, completely straight, it's just going to make squatting a little bit more difficult. Whereas if you angle your bindings out, then it makes the ability to bend your knees a bit easier. Also, like when you're snowboarding, you're typically doing it more in like one direction. So you're not just like bending down straight, you're kind of bending down and like looking this way. So that's also why you want to have your binding angled. Yeah, it just makes it a bit easier for bending your knees, for steering with your knees as well. So yeah, all those things. It's like if you had your front foot at 0, it would just make it a bit more difficult to like steer with your front knee. All right. Previous says, do I need hot waxing for a completely new board? Sintered base before riding. I would say it kind of depends. Sometimes I'll look at like if I get a new board and I'll look at the base and it looks good. It doesn't look like, sometimes it looks like it does need wax. But other new boards that I've picked up, they sometimes actually look a little bit dry. So I would say take a look at your base. If it looks like perfectly fine, then you may not need to wax it until the second or third day you ride it. But some boards that are new, I would say they do need wax. It kind of depends on how they look. Like behind me, a few of the new boards I've picked up this year, a couple of them have looked good and I didn't wax them. And a few of them, which I haven't ridden yet, but I can see that they need wax. So I'm gonna wax a couple of my new boards this year just because they just look like they need some wax. So it kind of depends, but I would lean towards you may have to wax your new board, yeah. Alex says, just switch to an Arc'teryx shell. How should I layer for Whistler? Yeah, first Arc'teryx shell, that's like a good start. Just like a really waterproof, really waterproof outer layer. From there, you can get something like, yeah, you're like a mid-layer jacket. So for me, I have like a Burton mid-layer jacket it's got like a synthetic material on the inside for warmth. So I usually wear that on colder days, and then having like a good base layer too. So the very first layer you put on. But yeah, you can check it out. I'm sure Arc'teryx has some really good base layers, but there's other brands as well. But yeah, Whistler is typically not that cold, but it fluctuates. Some days they can definitely get that cold. So I would maybe just look at get a good range from having like a few different layers, so that if it is really cold, you can grab something to keep you a bit warmer, or like something maybe you can roll up and put into a backpack, because it can be actually very different from the valley up to the top of the mountain, even like 10-15 degree difference. So if you walk out of your door down in the valley, you could just be fine with your shell on, but then once you get to the top, you may need like 1 or 2 more layers. So yeah, Whistler, it's always good to have lots of layers. All right, let's do a couple more questions here. El Stacker says, Japow or Japow? Yeah, El Stacker, man, I wish we could go back to Japan this year. I feel like it may not happen, but yeah, we'll see how it goes. Zach says, hey Kevin, how does the Stevens Pro compare to the DOA? Lots of similarities. Not really. The Scott Stevens is a much more mellow board. So I think it's like a flat. I'm pretty sure it's a flat camber snowboard that is like a bit softer too. So it changes edges a bit quicker, and also doesn't have like as much like snap to it. It's just like a bit of a softer board, which I think is, excuse me guys, it's a good board for like butters and jibbing compared to the DOA, which is a bit more aggressive. So a little bit stiffer, You can feel the camber a bit more in the DOA. So I think the DOA is better for riding with speed, for hitting larger features, for getting like an ollie, and the Scott Stevens is a bit better for like jibbing, for butters, and for like quicker turns. So yeah, two very, very different feeling boards. All right. Brody says, what bindings are good for size 13 boots? That's a tough one, Brody. Yeah, I think the best call for that is to actually, I think you have to go into a shop and like put on some bindings with your boots just to make sure it all fits. Because yeah, 13, that's like it's probably the largest, one of the larger sizes, or maybe like the largest size boot that you can get. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, man. You may have to go into a shop just to match that up. Right. NKL says, Kevin, how do I size my snowboard properly? Is it all based on weight, or does my height matter too? It's actually all based on your weight, which is a little bit tricky because yeah, if you are really tall but really skinny, it doesn't mean you should get like the smallest board. But I guess like yeah, all the sizing charts on websites, if you order a board on a website, it all goes by the size of your board to your weight. So I think that's like yeah, that's the best way. That's the best thing to go by. So yeah, weight to the board size. Oh, Emma, with a good question, dude. Are you gonna sell again the Pro Camp beanie? Yeah, this beanie right here. So I actually put in the order 2 days ago for the new black Snowboard Pro Camp beanies. So we'll have some new beanies for you guys in a couple weeks. But yeah, as soon as I get them, they'll be back up for sale. So yeah, new Snowboard Pro Camp beanies coming soon, and new stickers as well. So yeah, that's gonna be coming in a couple weeks. The order's in, and it'll just be a matter of them being made and then shipped here. So new beanies very soon for you guys. Jack says, do you live in Whistler? If so, how is it living there? Yeah, it's pretty cool living in Whistler. Like the fact that you can just like walk out your door and like go to the mountain. A lot of people actually live close enough to the resort that some people can just walk, or it's like a short drive. So yeah, being in a mountain town where you can just snowboard as much as you like is pretty cool. There's some like other challenges with it. There's not like sometimes a lot of things to do outside of snowboarding, but Whistler is kind of like an exception because it's very like it does cater to tourism a lot. So they have a lot of like good restaurants and like bars, and like there's a movie theater here. So there is still some cool stuff to do besides snowboarding. But yeah, it's a cool thing. It's different. It's a little bit more expensive, or maybe even like a lot more expensive. But yeah, the quality of life can be really high. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I've been living in Whistler now for like I think like 17 years. So it's yeah, it's an awesome place to be. Andrew says bindings for jibs and butters. Yeah, I'd recommend like a softer binding. So last year, the binding I rode most was the bent metal transfer bindings. They were good, very soft, good for the park. But yet this year I've got the Union Stratas, which are a softer like park type binding. Or you can look at the Union Contact Pros. But yeah, for butters and for park, it's definitely good to go with a softer binding. Jack's boss says, hey Kevin, what would you suggest for a new board if I want to carve, ride some POW, and something with a lot of stability? It's my third season, if that matters. Awesome. Yeah, so board that can kind of do all of that. I would say like something, the Capita DOA is one option for that stability. It's hard to like nail all of those things, but the Capita DOA is one. Maybe if you want something softer, but still gives you that stability, something like the GNU Headspace. I rode that a lot. All of these boards have some decent stability, but aren't great in the powder, to be honest. They can ride in the powder, but there's always trade-offs. But yeah, there's a couple. There's lots of boards out there, but yeah, it's hard to find that board that does everything perfectly. Cookie says, any chance of a large sticker for the car/laptop/board? All right, Cookie, yeah, good idea. Okay, good request. Maybe I can get some like larger Snowboard Pro Camp stickers made. Harja says, would you ever do like casual non-snowboarding vlogs? And how long have you been boarding for? Nice. I've done a few videos where a few videos that are non-snowboarding. Most of them come in the summertime. And to be honest, like those videos never do quite as well. And they're not like quite like what get really excited to make is like a non-snowboarding vlog. I do get like excited to make, like the thing I love to do is make snowboard videos. So I don't mind doing them once in a while, but yeah, my main passion is to make snowboard videos. So those are probably the ones I'll make like 99% of the time. And how long have you been snowboarding for? So I think, yeah, a long time. I think I've been snowboarding for 23 years. So yeah, it's been a while. Joshua wants to know, what are some good mid-flex boots? Yeah, Adidas Sambas, they're mid-flex. They're definitely my favorite ones. And Ganapa says, what does Pro Camp stand for? Yeah, good question. So when I was thinking of a name for the YouTube channel, I thought of, yeah, Snowboard Pro Camp kind of came to mind. And it's sort of based on, I guess that like where I used to teach snowboarding, it started out almost as like a camp type thing where you would have the same instructor, the same like class for like the whole week. So it was like a mini snowboard camp. And I think like a lot of the time it's like people also travel to like a snowboard camp because they want to pursue it. They want to get better, but they also maybe want to pursue snowboarding as a like maybe to get better, to start competing, and to see where they can take it. So a lot of people that would like travel to a camp for snowboarding really want to like yeah, just get better and maybe take it somewhere. So the idea with the YouTube channel at the beginning was to have to do tutorials where the YouTube channel was like your snowboard camp. So if you couldn't like travel and actually attend like a week camp, you could do it online on YouTube where you could yeah, watch videos which would help you to progress your riding. And I guess the community was kind of like your group or like the camp group with like the goal of like getting better, maybe of becoming pro, but mostly just to become a better snowboarder. So yeah, that's where the Snowboard Pro Camp idea came from. It was like taking the idea of a snowboard camp and putting it onto YouTube. So yeah, that's where Snowboard Pro Camp came from. And I think it kind of like does encompass like what the channel is about. I know that it's gone not just from tutorials, but now with the vlogs and gear reviews and other things. So it's kind of a expanded into more areas, but I think at the core of Snowboard Pro Camp is still like bringing people together to become better snowboarders. So that's where it comes from. And El Stacker with the super chat. Thanks, El Stacker. Says, what is that silver square? What is that silver square? It's under the helmet. Oh. You mean this? Is this what you're talking about? This is like the YouTube silver play button. So it was when I got to 100,000 subscribers, YouTube sent this to me. That's kind of cool. I think that's what you're talking about, right, El Stacker? All right. Cool. Awesome, guys. So I think I'm going to end it there. I know I've only been on here for 46 minutes, but in the previous live chat, we were on for like 15 or 20 minutes. And yeah, I'm just going to call it there. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll do another live chat this time next week, getting everyone, if you have any questions, any more gear questions. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a good time getting ready for the opening of the season. Yeah, the resorts are opening everywhere and everyone's getting their gear together, so it's a pretty exciting time. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you guys on here again soon. Awesome. Later, guys.